What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to talk about those sneaky, almost unnoticeable signs of an unhealthy work environment. I didn't even realize until I sat down to record this video that I made a video a couple of years back talking about signs of an unhealthy work environment, but I'm happy to report that this video is going to offer new things into this conversation because I am focusing on those sneaky signs of an unhealthy work environment. The ones that if you don't know what you're looking for, you might not even see them. What happens is we end up experiencing the repercussions of the unhealth, and because we can't point to anything so obvious in our workplace, we assume that maybe there's something about us that's making us feel not great when we show up for work, or that's causing us to burn out, or whatever else might be going on for us when we interact with our workplace. So if somehow some of these sneaky signs are happening in your workplace, I want you to be able to identify them and see them clearly so that then you can problem solve more accurately. Okay, I could jibber jabber all day long introing this episode, but let's go ahead and get into it. And remember, these are just the sneaky signs of an unhealthy work environment, so we're not even gonna touch on like the big bad signs of an unhealthy work environment. One sign of an unhealthy work environment is that people in leadership act very differently when they're offering therapy or in all staff type meetings than they do interacting with you in private one-on-one. Now, obviously, we all act differently in different contexts. That's just totally appropriate human nature. The way that I act when I'm talking to my kids at home.
You guys a bear and a butterfly?
Is going to be different than when I'm talking to my friends while we're out or while I'm sitting in my therapy chair talking to my clients. That's all appropriate. So what I'm referring to is actually when the character of your personhood is a different character that you present in one context compared to your true character, arguably, that we see in private. Another sneaky sign of unhealth in a workplace is that your complaint is framed as your problem. If it's somehow framed as you're too sensitive or you can't keep up or, everyone else doesn't seem to have a problem with this thing that you're having a problem with, then that's a sign of an unhealthy work environment. Often, these things can be framed in such supportive sounding language, like, thank you so much for coming forward and sharing your concerns. I see that this is really affecting you and you're a valued employee of our company. We want to help you feel supported. Have you considered maybe seeing your own personal therapist when maybe the thing that you're complaining about isn't related to the kinds of solutions that they're offering? This is a great opportunity for them to say, can you please tell us more about this thing that you're coming forward with? What feedback do you have for us? What is going on within our system that might be contributing? And if somehow it's just kind of a matter of like, how do we help you keep up with this unsustainable workload? Or there must be something going on with you because you're the only person who's complained about this. That's where the unhealth is coming in. And another sign of an unhealthy work environment, it's when people in positions of leadership and authority talk bad about clients behind their back or use otherizing language. Or it might be somebody who's not in leadership talking bad about a client in front of a group, and those in positions of management, authority, etc., don't gently correct that way of speaking about our clients. And I want to clarify something because I definitely think venting for the sake of receiving support from your colleagues definitely has its place, but there's a difference between talking bad for the sake of kind of otherizing and villainizing a person versus honestly sharing the difficulty you're experiencing with a client for the sake of saying like, hey, I could use some support. I need some help. This is hard for me. I think a lot of times when we're talking bad about a client, that may be ultimately what we're needing and we just misdirected how we spoke about it. But when we see that coming from folks in management and a position of authority, then it's setting a tone for that work environment and it creates a space where everybody might start talking like that about our clients, and that is really unhealthy and harmful. Another sneaky sign of an unhealthy work environment is when the ends are used to justify the means. When harmful structures are justified by pointing to positive outcomes or, something that aligns with the company's values. Let's say you're feeling totally overworked and you have 38 clients on your weekly caseload and a ton of admin, and somebody in a position of authority responds by saying like, hey, look, I know that you are working so hard and you are seeing so many clients, but just think now we're able to help so many more clients who need our help because we've upped our productivity requirements or whatever it might be. And it might even go on, and we're so thankful for all this work that you're doing because it's amazing. Here's some stats about how we've helped people and you've participated in making that happen. Like a lot of these sneaky signs of an unhealthy work environment come, and it's like, I think of that phrase like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Like it sounds good when the feedback or information is getting delivered, but when you parse it apart, it actually has a very manipulative quality. It makes it a lot more disorienting and confusing for us when somebody is using such kind and supportive sounding phrasing to tell us something that's unhealthy. I had trouble finding the right word for the next sign of an unhealthy workplace, and I think it's because there's an actual proper term for this, and I'm just not privy to it. So the term I chose for this next sneaky sign of an unhealthy work environment is defeatism. Please tell me in the comments if you know what word I'm actually looking for when I talk about this, but I'm referring to that dynamic that I hear so much, not just in the workplace, but amongst therapists and just everywhere. If there's something difficult happening, that the response to it is like, yeah, that's just kind of the way it is, or it's like that everywhere pretty much. And of course, if you hold that perspective within yourself, you are fully welcome to hold that perspective. But when someone in a position of power in your workplace offers that as a response to you coming forward with whether it's a complaint or, frustration or whatever it might be, if your boss then says like, that's just kind of the way it is, though it's like that everywhere. Or if you want to be a therapist, that's how it is in the therapy profession. I'm sorry. That's harmful. It's kind of this idea of like, if something is happening everywhere or in the majority of places, people can seem to use that as like an excuse to morally justify something. But something that's wrong happening everywhere is just as wrong as if it's only happening in a few places. Does that even make sense? Like we would hope that an organization or a manager or boss would take the moment to say like, I wonder why my valued employee is bringing this up with me. This must feel important to them, and so I need to treat it as important, even if we hold the belief that it's kind of the same everywhere else. Okay, the next sneaky sign of an unhealthy workplace, it's a doozy. I feel like we need to talk about this in general, and that sneaky sign is hollow concessions instead of sincere apologies. Culturally, we're pretty stuck on this idea, I think, that if somebody includes the word sorry or I apologize or the company apologizes, that equals an apology. Almost like the word itself is the apology. So I strongly advocate and hope that in general, as a society, not just at work, that we can start to grasp better that an apology is far more than whether we inserted certain vocabulary terms into our apologetic statement. We all are familiar with the like, I'm sorry if I offended you, or even worse, like, I'm sorry that you feel offended. There's like no ownership at all. You're the problem still. So there's not much apology in there, but the word sorry is inserted. The best version of apology that one could make is to say, I realize these specific ways are the areas that I messed up. Here are the ways that I'm observing so far that making those choices has caused specific damage or harm. This is why it's not good that I did those things. And going forward, here are the specific changes I'm going to make so that I minimize or avoid making that mistake again. And whatever those specific changes are, they need to be something that can be held accountable or measurable in some way so that somebody could circle back and say, hey, you said you were going to do XYZ, and I haven't observed you make those changes. That is a genuine apology. Did I just get on a high horse for a hot minute about apologies? Yes, but I see this all the time. I see it with couples and friendships, at work, everywhere. And as the recipient, you feel like, I guess they apologized, but I still don't feel good. So am I just holding a grudge? They said sorry. So if I'm still upset, that's my problem. That may be true, but it is worth naming that the apology may not have actually been an apology. Thanks for hanging with me on that one. I haven't heard many therapists talk about that too often, and it's such a pervasive problem that our apologies are not really apologies so often. So I just want to get that one on the map, I guess, in general. Okay, and since I spent so long on that, let's just rattle off the last couple signs that I have for today. One sneaky sign of an unhealthy work environment is gossip, especially from the top down. Gossip, to me, is when you speak about someone for the sake of disparaging them rather than maybe seeking support. When it's a boss, they shouldn't be seeking support from an employee. There's other formats where they should be seeking that support from. Another sign of an unhealthy work environment is that there's a lack of clinician support. Maybe it's a very genuine reason why a clinician's not getting enough support, whether the support is supervision, training, just any kind of support that you might need. And it's so easy to say like, oh, my boss means well, and your boss does mean well, most likely. I hope it may not be the boss's fault, but it's still an unhealthy dynamic within the workplace. Now, it doesn't feel right to do this episode without acknowledging, again, that the mental health system as a whole is unhealthy, like the whole thing, because, there's not enough support for the mental health care system. There are good people working in that system where that good person is doing everything they can within their reasonable power to do a good job and stay healthy. Nonetheless, the system might remain unhealthy, and they don't have the power to change the whole system. I want you to feel empowered to know that just because maybe your boss or whomever means well, there may still be unhealth, and it may not be their fault, but that doesn't minimize at all the fact that you might be working in an unhealthy work environment, and you should be empowered to be able to see that clearly and make whatever decisions you would like to choose, or even if you're choosing to stay where you are, that you can still see it for what it is. That's still a healthy move on your part. My hope is that in time, workplaces can at least be more self-aware of how much they might be a cog in the greater system and still have a compassionate take on how that truth may be negatively impacting their employees, and to acknowledge it for what it is. Say, this is hard. We are dealing with something harmful. How do we do this as best as we can within the perimeters that we're working within? And just acknowledge reality for what it is. Can we at least do that? That would be great. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes is an all-inclusive practice management system. They can help you with scheduling, notes, billing. They have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform, and so much more. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, thank you for watching this video. If somehow some of these signs of an unhealthy work environment are happening in your workplace, I hope this was useful to you to hear and at least just be equipped with the knowledge so that you can decide what you want to do with it. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.